The establishment wants war. The military-industrial complex needs their trillion-dollar conflict. And they're using Iran's nuclear program as an excuse. President Trump faces the toughest test yet, standing between the Warhawks and World War III. The intelligence community claims that Iran isn't building nukes. Israel says they're weeks away. Tucker Carlson warns that this could destroy Trump's presidency. And Tulsi Gabbard quotes intelligence assessments. Meanwhile, Tehran burns and 13 million people wonder if they're next. What's really happening? Who's telling the truth? Why are the same people who lied about Iraq's weapons now beating the drums for Iran? The answer will determine whether we get peace through strength or another endless war. Keep watching. We got sculptnation.com/NNN coming up next. Let's be honest. Most guys think their testosterone is being drained by aging, bad genetics, or maybe even a lack of exercise. But what if I told you that's not the real reason? In fact, the real culprit is something you're likely eating every day. And here's the shocking part. If something you've always been told, it's something you've always been told is healthy. This one food has been scientifically shown to destroy testosterone levels, and most men have no idea. It's not junk food. It's not the sugar. It's something way more unexpected, and just eating it a few times a week is enough to tank your testosterone, kill your motivation, leave you drained. But here's the good news. Cutting that one food could change everything. The team at Sculpt Nation created Test Boost Max, a formula with 8 powerful natural ingredients that help support and restore healthy testosterone production without injections, without prescriptions, or synthetic hormones. They've helped thousands of guys build muscle, burn fat, reignite their energy, and get their drive back the natural way. And right now you can watch their free video that explains everything. What this food is, why it's hurting you, and what you can do today to take control of your body. Just go to sculptnation.com/NNN, sculptnation.com/NNN. Watch the video, get the facts, make the change. Test Boost Max is for men who still believe in strength, discipline, and taking charge of their health. No prescriptions, no BS, just real results. Now, the pressure is mounting on from all sides. President Trump knows the stakes. Prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon without starting World War III. That's the challenge that he's up against right now. Now watch him explain the fundamental absurdity of Iran's nuclear program. Take a look.
So how do you get to a solution there?
Oh, we'll get 100%.
You think so?
Well, we're going to have a solution one way or the other. It's either going to be violent or not violent. And I far prefer nonviolent. I know so many Iranians from New York, from Washington, from a different place. These are great people. You know, you have to view them as people. And I don't want it to be a violent thing, but they're not going to have a nuclear weapon.
But you said it was close the other day. You said it was close to a deal.
I think it's close. I think,
so does that mean that they're going to
enrich
at any level, like a civilian level?
No, I think they want to make a deal. You know, you say to yourself, they have massive oil, by the way. They have oil that lasts for 300 years. They have a lot of oil. People don't realize they're one of the biggest in the world. And it's very good oil, meaning it's pure, perfect stuff. They don't have to, spend a fortune on gases and energy in order to melt the rock and everything. They have pure, unadulterated, good oil. And you say, why does somebody that has that kind of oil, other than being politically correct, but when you have unlimited amounts of oil and gas, why are you putting up, why do you need civil nuclear? I just don't see it.
But, are you going to call for it all?
And I think nuclear is fine. I think nuclear is fine for civil if you have a country with no oil. But if you're sitting on one of the largest piles of oil in the world, why are you talking about putting up nuclear civil? I call it nuclear civil.
I think he makes an amazing point. The only reason they want nuclear weapons is so they can destroy the West, right? But here's the takeaway that the media won't touch. Donald Trump doesn't see our adversaries as these cartoon villains, but he sees them as human beings. And it's because of that he doesn't want war. He wants to avoid it. Imagine that. A president who actually values life. Now let's talk Iran. They sit on 300 years worth of oil, the purest, most sought after crude on earth. And yet they claim they need this nuclear energy. Please get off it. I don't believe it. Let us know in the chat if you believe that or not. I personally do not believe it. That's like a billionaire panhandling for lunch money. Okay. Now, Trump's stance is crystal clear. Iran will not get nukes. Period. No more kicking the can down the road. No more diplomatic games. No more pallets of sweet, sweaty cash. And when the so-called experts tried to downplay the threat, Trump called them out publicly. He said what everyone knows but won't say. Iran is a lot closer than they're letting on. They just punctured through Israel's Iron Dome. This isn't just foreign policy. This is moral clarity. Peace through strength. Truth over narrative. Take a look.
Mr. President, you've always said that you don't believe Iran should be able to have a nuclear weapon. But how close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having it.
I don't care what she said. This guy's such a G. Trump trusts his instincts over intelligence reports, and this is why we elected him. The same intelligence that missed Iraq's weapons of mass destruction now claims that Iran isn't building bombs. Crazy. General Flynn provides the technical breakdown that explains Israel's urgency. This isn't speculation. This is military analysis of Iran's actual capabilities. Take a look.
Good afternoon, everyone. Recent Iranian actions involving a provocative ballistic missile launch and an attack against a Saudi naval vessel conducted by Iran-supported Houthi militants underscore what should have been clear to the international community all along about Iran's destabilizing behavior across the entire Middle East. The recent ballistic missile launch is also in defiance of UN Security Council Resolution 2231, which calls upon Iran not to undertake any activity related to ballistic missiles designed to be capable of delivering nuclear weapons, including launches using such ballistic missile technology. These are just the latest of a series of incidents in the past 6 months in which Houthi forces that Iran has trained and armed have struck Emirati and Saudi vessels and threatened United States and allied vessels transiting the Red Sea. In these and other similar activities, Iran continues to threaten U.S. friends and allies in the region. The Obama administration failed to respond adequately to Tehran's malign actions, including weapons transfers, support for terrorism, and other violations of international norms.
It's been quite a while since we knew about Iran's nuclear, their wishes to get a nuclear bomb. When they discuss, when they tried to take Israel, when the Ayatollahs and when the Muslim radicals tried to take Israel back in the 40s and the 70s, and I don't know, it seems like every couple of years they try to obliterate Israel from the face of the map. They say, first we're going to take Saturday, then we're going to take Sunday. First we're going to take Shabbat, and then we're going to take Sunday services, okay? They want the little Satan, and then they want the big Satan, okay? They're coming for us. And just like the rioter and the protester who's standing right in front of your car when you're trying to get home from work, when they create a threat for you, when they threaten your life, you're better off just believing what they say. Now, at this point, because of the Democrats and the liberals, we are weeks from a bomb. Not years, weeks. Everything is in place. The enriched uranium, the delivery systems, the underground facilities. Israel could not wait for diplomacy. This is a matter of survival. But here's where it gets complicated. Tucker Carlson, one of Trump's strongest supporters, issued a dire warning about the Warhawks circling the president. Take a look.
What about Tucker?
he came out and did have a whole lot to say about this, but he had to be discredited too. So the president went after him, lashing out against popular conservative talk show hosts. Because he was coming out against the war.
Well, what he was doing is he was saying, he started out this. He was talking to Steve Bannon yesterday, and he was saying, I love and respect President Trump. I think he's wonderful. I think he absolutely means well. He doesn't want things to go badly, but I'm going to warn him: if he drags us into this war with Iran, it's going to destroy his presidency. And the president's response to this: I don't care what that kooky Tucker says. Iran cannot get the bomb.
Look, when we say this is a wide 10, I totally agree with it. And to be honest, I love the libertarians. I deeply respect Ron Paul and Rand Paul, but to be honest, they're pissing me off lately. This is not. I'm not sure I feel like there's this like weird ideological thing that's happening here, and they're not just understanding the actual facts on the ground. This is going to destroy Trump's presidency. Tucker sees the trap, right? The same neocons who gave us Iraq are pushing for Iran. And Trump dismisses the warning, but Tucker is not wrong about the danger. And Ron Paul is, and Daniel McAdams, they're not necessarily wrong about some of the risks. But same playbook as Iraq. Phantom nukes justify a regime change. Like, let's take a look at this next clip.
The big argument right now is what are we in the United States up to? We hear a lot about what Netanyahu wants to do, and we hear about the nukes that are in the hands of those radical Iranians, and the world is being frightened by this, just as they were from Bin Laden and the other group. And when Iraq was having the story that, you got to get the nukes, you got to get the nukes, they're back to now radicalizing this whole thing about the nukes that the Iranians have. So that is a scenario they're talking about shifting a little bit, because that's everything you hear. I mean, if you talk to Trump, at one time he wanted to stay out of it, but now he says we got to get the nukes out. We're not going to do a thing unless we get all those nukes out. But now there are other people suggesting maybe the ultimate goal might be a little bit different than just finding the nukes. So when they finally got into Iraq, Saddam Hussein, he didn't have any nukes. And what they did was they changed the whole government, and now it was shifted over to a greater influence on the empire, has greater influence. But they continue to do that. The nuke is a good attention getter, and I think that is what they have done.
I deeply respect Rand Paul. I deeply expect the Pauls. Ron Paul, Rand Paul. But I think he's dead wrong about this. They have massive rallies where they cheer and chant death to Israel, death to America. Like, the Ayatollahs are sitting at our doorstep. They have nuclear ambitions. And to me, this is something that shouldn't and can't be ignored, especially due to recent events. We thought the Iron Dome was made of iron. We found out just yesterday, a couple days ago, that it's not made of iron, that it is porous, that it can be punctured. Okay? They obviously have more than what they're letting on. And since they're chanting in the streets, death to Israel, death to America, I think it's better, just like the rioters on the street who are sitting in front of your car as you are on the way home from driving your kids home. If they threaten your life, you're better off just believing what they say. And Trump's frustration has boiled over. He offered Iran a deal. They refused. And now their cities are burning and their people are suffering. And just like Trump says, he doesn't want people to die. He loves the Iranian people. He loves all people, I think. I really, truly believe that Trump does not want anyone to die, and he's going to make efforts to save lives. But let's be blunt, okay? Check out this next clip. Let him be.
Are you open to negotiating with the Iranians right now, or do you want to wait?
I don't know. I've been negotiating. I told them to do the deal. They should have done the deal. Their cities have been blown to pieces. Have lost a lot of people. They should have done the deal. I told them do the deal. So I don't know. I'm not too much in a mood to negotiate.
They should have done the deal. Agree. Yeah, there's no patience for negotiations at this point. I mean, bombs are dropping left and right. The window for diplomacy is closing very, very fast. But what does victory look like? Trump wants more than a temporary pause. He wants permanent resolution. Safe America. Let's take a look at the clip.
What specifically is better than a ceasefire? What are you looking for here?
An end, a real end, not a ceasefire. An end.
So something that would be permanent.
Yeah, or giving up entirely.
Is that okay too? Are you close there? Is that possible in the next 24
Why
hours?
not? Certainly possible. Complete give up. That's possible.
We had a couple of comments about Sun Tzu, The Art of War. What you need to do to win a war is to win completely. Not a ceasefire, an end. Complete capitulation or complete destruction. Both. I mean, no middle ground. No frozen conflicts where we continue to kick the can down the road and throw pallets of cash at people who hate us. Now, the situation escalates when Trump suggests evacuating Tehran. To me, this is an olive branch. This is Trump basically telling them, get out while you still can. We're not trying to kill you. Look, if we were all trying to kill civilians, it wouldn't be a hard thing to do for this country to do. We could end the whole thing. Right? We could easily do that. The White House scrambles to clarify it. Take a look.
This is frankly bizarre and extremely reckless. Iran should have signed the deal I told them to sign. What a shame and waste of human life. Simply stated, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I said it over and over again. And then he said this, everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. That's shocking. Tehran is a city of 13 million people. And you can imagine if you're sitting there and says everyone should immediately evacuate, because that's what the Israelis do in Gaza before they go and bomb and kill all the civilians. So if I'm sitting in Tehran and he said everybody should immediately evacuate, I am absolutely panicking, thinking, is Israel going to drop a nuclear weapon on Tehran? Is Trump going to drop a nuclear weapon on Tehran? And as soon as he did that, the White House now started trying to explain, well, what the president really meant is that, and this is what they did with Biden. Remember, Biden would say some whacked out crazy thing, and the White House would say, well, what President Biden really meant to say, and now they're having to do it with Trump because he's unhinged right now.
Smoochy in the chat says the art of war and the art of the deal all roll into one. I'm inclined to agree with you. Now, these mixed messages create chaos. Is this psychological warfare or a genuine threat? Tehran residents don't know whether to flee or stay. Personally, I don't want to be there for what happens next. Even Democrats are fracturing. Chris Cuomo, the consummate liberal, the guy who hid out in his basement during COVID, is all of a sudden dropping truth bombs about his own party's moral collapse on foreign policy. Take a look.
Democrats openly play to socialism now. They're trying to drum up their own populist outrage to match MAGA. They support candidates who don't believe Israel has a right to exist. This is more demonic than democratic. It is proof of extremism corroding our culture.
Absolutely. Listen, I mean, we talked about this earlier. I mean, are we talking about a mental illness like narcissism or psychopathy, or are we talking about just a demonic possession? Because it's more demonic than democratic. When your party supports those who want Israel destroyed, you've sort of lost moral authority. But here's the brutal reality. Trump faces an impossible choice. Allow Iran to get nuclear weapons and risk nuclear terrorism, or launch military action and risk something that we've all been dreading, World War III. And the Warhawks, they want blood. The intelligence community says there's no threat. Israel says time is running out. Tucker warns of disaster, not just for the world, but for the Republican Party. And Tulsi is quoting assessments. Who's right? Everyone? Maybe everyone, maybe no one. Personally, I trust our president's instincts on this. I really like how coy he is about certain things. She's wrong. I mean, Iran is probably closer to nukes than the CIA admits, but farther than Israel claims. We don't know. The regime is evil, but the people aren't. Military action might work, but it might spark a war. Trump trying to thread the needle, maximum pressure without massive warfare. He knows the establishment wants another forever war. That suits their interests. He knows the base elected him to end wars, not to start them, which is true. And this is just, I think that's just a part of the. I don't think any conservative wants to send their kids to war and die. I mean, he knows Iran can't have nukes, but outright bombing them isn't going to solve the problem. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. This isn't about choosing between Trump, Tucker, and Tulsi. They all want the same thing. This is what I mean when I say that this party has a large tent. It's a big tent. And if you have been a lib your whole life, we will accept you and welcome you and cradle you in our ample bosom and hold you when the tears come. Okay? The disagreement it's about tactics, not goals. Okay? I trust Trump's instincts, and I would heed the warnings from Tucker, from Tulsi, from the Pauls, from Rand Paul, from Ron Paul. But we elected President Trump as our president, and I say we go with his. I trust his instincts. That's all I'm saying. Now, the Iranian people, they're people too, and they are not all a part of the extreme religiosity that we see, who are called for death to Israel and death to America, who want to take Friday and then take Saturday and then take Sunday. But the world deserves safety, and we cannot rely on the Ayatollahs to help us out with that. America deserves peace. And can we achieve all of this without war? We're going to find out pretty soon. Now, if you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is coming up right now. This crisis exposes everything wrong with American foreign policy. Same liars who sold us Iraq now push for Iran. The intelligence community that missed every major threat says there's nothing to worry about. The military industrial complex smells profit in Persian blood, and we're caught in the middle. President Trump is trying to prevent nuclear terrorism without triggering World War III. Tucker could be right. A war could destroy the presidency. Maybe Tulsi's right. Intelligence has been wrong before. But Trump is right. Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. Like I said, I've said this 4 times in this show today. If someone is coming at you, claiming that they're going to kill you, you're better off believing them. I believe that they are all patriots, including Rand Paul, including Ron Paul, and they're attacking the same problem from different angles. The solution isn't choosing sides among allies. It's preventing the establishment from manipulating us into another disaster. Now, here's the real question. Can Trump achieve peace through strength without warmongers hijacking his agenda? Yes or no? Drop it in the clip. Drop it in the chat. Let's see what we got. Let's talk a little foreign policy here. Drop your answer below. Stand against the war machine. Get your next news gear at shop shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Shop.nextnewsnetwork.com.